it's okay to let go. You're not alone. Stand your ground, take it slow. The way you've been shown, trust yourself, you to get through. Now you're on the other side, living life again. It was a wild ride out of the rain into the sun. Look, you've won.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. It is Thursday, March 13th, and we're coming upon an eclipse tonight. Of course, it's really early morning. I think it happens here in New England around 2:26 a.m. And of course, I don't normally sleep. Tonight, I'm going to fall dead asleep. I can just guarantee it. So, oh my gravy. My name's Teresa. For those of you that are new and don't know me, this is my channel, Wounds to Wisdom. And in general, we talk about things that are heart-centered, that are about our inner growth and awakening and how we live to raise our own vibrations, to be more intentional with our thoughts and with our words and with our actions. Hey, hi, Brace. Yes. So for those of you that also are new to the channel, I have two beautiful boys, Luca and Biscotti. They are Shih Tzu puppies that are 3 years old. And I have a girl, Marley, who is adorable. She's 9. Oh my gosh, old lady in cat years. And my little one, Luca, the runt of the group, ended up, because I'm in New England and we ran out of salt in my community, they used a lot of sand. And we are having tremendous winds. And my poor little boy had just eyes corroded with sand. So anyway, he's doing well. We had a little crisis. I had to rush him to the vet yesterday and I was all verklempt, but I'm better because these boys are they're my kids, they are my heart. So anyway, the purpose of this channel is for us to go deep, tap into things that might make us uncomfortable, but it really is about our spiritual growth. It's becoming better versions of who we are. So on Tuesday, we talked about journaling and the ways to journal. And I'm going to touch upon that briefly now. And then we're going to dive into grief. And it's funny because before I joined today, I studied under David Kessler, who studied and was mentored by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She's well known in the deaf and dying community. She wrote a beautiful book. He helped edit that book and they added some other things. And then when she passed, he's just taken it and run wild with grief. Because here's the thing. Like love, there's no one way to grieve. There's no way to experience death of a loved one, of a pet, of a career, of a marriage, of a friendship, of a job. There's no one way to experience these things. And so my evolution has been, how do I get through some of my experiences that have really shaped me into the person that I am? And so what we talked about on Tuesday is, how do you begin journaling? If you're somebody who just doesn't know what to say in a journal, doesn't know how to get through writing, this is a way of tapping into thoughts to get you going. I promise you, once you start writing, you won't be able to stop. You can use the tools that I'm mentioning to write songs. Hey, Ben. To write poetry, to write short stories. They're just techniques to tap into your words, what feels true to you. So, for example, the way that I broke it out this past week was take a piece of paper and just fold it in half. And on one side, write on the top column adjectives, and on the other column, write nouns. And then select 5, 10 adjectives. And then on the other side, 5 or 10 nouns. When you do that, take the first sentence can be, I remember, and then run with your adjectives and your nouns. It'll come naturally. So I remember when the sun was shining on Sunday and I felt the warmth on my skin. I was very sad in a memory of my blah, 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 blah. Go. You could say, oh my God, I had such a shitty day today at my crappy job that annoys the hell out of me. And then I came home to my husband, wife, child, dog, cat, and I was cranky. Boom. It's just to help you find a way to move the words that you already have in you, but sometimes you're like, I don't know what to say. Today is Thursday, March 13th. The sun came out, it's still cold. All right, that's all fine to say in your journal. But if you wanted to go deeper, now you can start to talk about, how does the cold weather make you feel? Some people love the cold weather. I don't mind cold weather. I mind freezing cold weather because then I can't get warm. But that triggers a thought. How freaking fortunate am I that I have my blanket in my lap and I have an apartment that has heat and I can heat up some hot cocoa or coffee or tea. So that triggers thoughts in me because we often neglect the obvious around us. And so that's what we talked about on Tuesday. Let me just tap into the comments for a second because Brazy said something that I want to just make sure I highlight. The method makes it incredibly easy to journal. Thank you. You're so welcome. Yeah, I really, we talk about journaling in our community. And on Tuesday, I also put in the description, Christy from Conversations with Christy, she created this beautiful journal that she's offering free. So go to that live that I did on Tuesday and feel free to copy it, download it, share it with friends. It's, again, there's so many different ways. There's a shadow journal that was just shared by Jimena at Magic of Healing that I'll post. And my way, it's just to encourage people because I often hear from a myriad of people, well, I don't know what to say. If you're a musician, this is a great way to start to create lyrics. It's a great way to find that tune in your head. Now, there are a lot of AI tools these days, Suno being one of them that our community has jumped on like barnstormers. And I still haven't figured out most of that. But people are writing songs, they're taking poetry, their own or others, and it's creating music. How fabulous that there's ways and tools for us to put thoughts, feelings, actions into words. So I just think it's fantastic. So grief. Like I said, I just want to find my notebook so I can remember some of the things that I reviewed today with David Kessler. And again, he is world renowned as a grief educator. Neither he nor I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist of any kind. I'm not a medical professional. I am an experienced grieving woman. And one of the things that David mentioned today, which was very validating to me, is that being in grief kills. There's a name for it. It's broken heart syndrome. That's what happened to me. So, there's validation when we're going through grief. But today's topic is really about sort of the long goodbye. Someone that is a loved one, a friend that's going through cancer and is dying. Someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia and will die eventually. But The dying for that one is first the dying of you, the memory of you. And so, how do we navigate that? How do we express that? Who do we talk to about it? And to add a little wrinkle kinkle to it, how do you resolve the unresolvable? How do you resolve unresolved issues with the person that is going through this end of life? And look, guys, we all come into this world alone and we all die alone. It's what happens in the middle, right? That's where we get to participate in a relationship with a person, place, thing, pet. Um, and I find that, and I had some really great notes, and then I closed my computer and I didn't save the document. So, yay for me. But I think one of the things that, we struggle with is closure while that person's still alive. Look, many of us have experiences where we get a phone call and that someone special died. And you're like, wait, what? What do you mean they died? There's that experience which we will talk about. But today I wanted to focus in the healing side for you because I just hung up with my auntie after the course I took. She's one of the sweetest ladies in this world, especially to me. She's my mother's sister. She is 93 going on 94, I think, or 92 going to 93. Either way, doesn't matter. But she's having memory loss. They have diagnosed it as Alzheimer's. She does not know that. So, one of the things that I did was I wrote both her and my uncle a letter, just thanking them for everything they have ever done for me. All the blessings that they bestowed upon me, the support they gave my mom when she was dying, and that which helped me because I had to work. And then also after she died, there's their support of me and what I was going through, and the fact that we were both, all three of us actually, my aunt and uncle, we were all going through this loss of my mom. And there was that relatability and that abso-freaking love that just was palpable for all of us. Um, and I'm not going to bring people to tears, but when my mom had fallen into a coma and my uncle and my aunt had been trapped in Florida when they got the news that this was going to be it, and they did everything they could to get to my mom. Of course, in Florida at that time in 2016, there was a freaking hurricane, and my brother was also down there, and he was like, "Tell her she can't die. I'm on my way. I'm going to swim there if I have to freaking swim there." It was heart-wrenching, and my uncles cried to her when he finally saw her, begging her to wake up. That's a memory I just want to erase because it was so painful. But it's his memory. It's his. He loved her so much. So our love for me was symbolic that I needed to write something while they both still remember who the hell I am. And the way that I speak to my aunt is different than anybody else. And so it's a little dramatic, but it's very me. And she knows it's me the minute she hears that tune, that sing song in my voice, right? But that's going to end really soon. She struggles. So how do you find comfort? How do you find saying goodbye to someone you love? And you also, and this is the caveat, this is the wrinkle kinkle, you might be angry at the person that's dying. So how do you navigate that? Are you going to say, "Hey, dear so and so, I really did hate you throughout all of this experience. I'm really sorry you're dying, and I'm going to feel like shit, but no, 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 no." Yes, you can write that. But what is it that you need to do? What's your face to face with their ending that's going to bring you some semblance of resolution, relief? You want to remove the guilt if you can, right? So speaking farewell out loud. lighting a candle for them prior to them dying because you have no way of saying goodbye. And I'm taking a breath. So for me, I have to take a breath because saying goodbye is important. And saying goodbye to somebody who's dying, that is aware they are dying, that's a different kettle of fish. So I'm going to just take a moment, stop in to check the comments, and I'm going to put my glasses on before I dive in. So let me just do this, guys. Please bear with me. I'm trying to get acclimated. Hi, Indigo Twin. Thank you for being here. And we've got, I said, Tibet. Yeah. So what is helpful? Again, using any technique that works for you. But whether it's in a conversation with someone like me who's a grief educator, and I can be a sounding board, I can be a witness, is being a witness for that person, you know, and let them just, you can engage with them about memories, things that are important to you, things that were good for you, and be honest. You know, it's what did you admire about them while they're still here? Hey, so and so, I really admire the way that you helped other people in their lives and you were a great support to them. And so many in the community really respond to you. Talk about memories if it's a family member or a parent and it's a good memory, you know, try to bring that kind of comfort. That's if you get to have these conversations. And you can offer some reassurance, but we're not the ones dying and we're not the ones that are afraid of death. Now, I've been there, right? I've done that already. I'm not afraid. I can't tell you tomorrow if they diagnose me with cancer that I'm not going to be, oh crap, my TikTok is happening and I may overcome it and I may not. So I can't say I know how you feel. I can only acknowledge that what they must be feeling is scary. What can I do to help you? And if that you're not comfortable with that statement, if you're not comfortable expressing to someone, how can I help you? Because you don't know what you want to do or how deep you want to get involved. Just say, you know what? I love you and thank you. If it feels right, respect their cues, you know, try to generate conversations that it's not false conversation, but again, they're memory related conversations. Hey, remember when we went to that park and we had a great time and we were all swimming and all the kids were there and all the cousins were there and your brothers and sisters were there? Whatever it is that you can initiate with someone. Now, what if you can't A, talk to them, or B, you don't want to talk to them? You need to acknowledge that there's a sadness for you. I want to give you permission that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel sadness. It's also okay to feel relief. You know, not all the humans in our lives have been good people, right? Not everyone has been, you know, so filled with, you know, sunshine and rainbows. Some of them are piss and vinegar. And so let me just see, Ben, what'd you say here, my friend? A thing I found helpful on the death that ripped me up the most was to listen to loud music on long drives and screaming. Absolutely. That's taking care of you. Because we often, you know, people project on us, oh, you must be so sad. No, I'm freaking pissed. I'm angry. I didn't get to tell them how much they hurt me. I didn't get to say blah, blah, blah. And now they're gone. And there also comes guilt with that sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And so, absolutely, that is one way of expressing it. And I'm a huge music person. Um, Indigo said, I often wondered if my dad regretted not reconnecting and healing that pain between himself and his brother. My uncle passed in 2022, and it was difficult because my dad clearly felt something. So I can share with you that that is something that has gone on in my family right now. And I have two people that are on their way to transition. And it might not be tomorrow, but it's imminent, right? I think, Ben, one of the things, the worst death that you had to deal with was someone you weren't related to and not even close to, but she was a good person. And it made me so angry. Their light was out of the world. And I want to validate that because there are people sometimes we don't even know. I was hugely impacted by the hostage situation in October when all those Israelis, all those lovely human beings were taken hostage. And I knew most of them would not come back breathing. And there's this sense of fear, of loss, because you're watching youth be murdered. You're watching seniors being murdered. You're watching babies being murdered, tortured. And it taps into something in your soul and it brings up this anger. But when it's a family member or a friend or a colleague or someone that's impacted your life in some way, because not all grief does, not all death does. I mean, I certainly have friends that whose spouses have passed. They're lovely people, but it didn't impact me. I really want to tap into those people that you have unresolved stuff with, unresolved conversations, unresolved healing. And so writing them a letter without sending it, please don't send it. It's for you to put into practice or into play a way of healing. You know, you can, you could say, dear parent, um, I am sorry, truly sorry that you're going through this. And it breaks my heart to witness it. But here's how I feel about how you raised me, how you treated me, how unresolved this all makes me feel. That talking to you is like talking to a brick wall and nothing's ever going to change. And how do I get to say goodbye when I already buried you? I buried you already. Before you're even dead, I buried you. The story here in our journaling, in our expression, is to say those things that you can't say otherwise. This society judges us, judges all people on everything: how you look, how you talk, how you think, how you breathe, how you chew your food, um, how you talk on YouTube, what you look like on YouTube. Um, and I think that sometimes when someone dies, it triggers something in us. Well, shit, if I die tomorrow, will anybody come to my funeral or my memorial service? Have I made an impact or a difference in anyone's life? Do I have unresolved relationships that maybe I could tap in today? So it's it's an opportunity for us to journal those thoughts, to put them down on paper, to put them in songs, to rock out to existing songs that talk about any of this. God knows there's a lot of them. Sadly, right? And then when you're dealing with people that have Alzheimer's, it's like, well, now you can't say it because they're not going to remember. And that long goodbye for me is really painful because I cherished every moment that I have and had with my aunt and uncle. And it's also the ending of my elder community. There's not a replacement to that because I'm becoming the elders within my community. Weird. When did that happen? Well, when all the older people died and they're dying. My dad had 7 brothers and sisters. Tick tock, tick tock. They're all going one by one and quickly. And it's not an easy journey for the person that is going through this process, but then those that are left behind. So, what for those of us left behind is helpful? So I'm just checking comments. Yeah, so Braze, that's something that so many people, um, and Ben, this is a kicker, right? In the tush. It's like you may not have known someone specifically, it still impacts us. The victims of 9/11 impacts us. The people in the hurricanes, it impacts us. The people in the California fires, it impacts us because we put ourselves in their shoes. It could have been, would have been me. But by the grace of God, go I. Um, and so, it's this conversation that we have with each other on what can we do, and how do we help ourselves? How do we help the people around us? We be witnesses. We're witnesses. We're witnesses to someone's journey and trauma, and it's usually a reflection of what's happening within us, right? Um, and we don't have to have a lot of words. So tell me about your loved one. That's all you have to say. Most of us don't need more cues than that. I could sit and tell you about my aunt for hours. I could sit and tell you about my dead mother for days. Um, and um, One of the things that David Kessler talked about today is that we all experience death differently. And, it's when we're helping or we're talking to somebody else, we need to, to have their pain reflected back, you know, that empathy. I can only imagine. And tell me about them. Tell me about that person. You know, what was their favorite food? It can be light because then what that triggers is a different conversation. The journey of grief, it's not so much the emotion of grief, it's the emotion of how much love you felt for someone, or anger, or hate, or bitterness, or resentment, or joy. So I don't want to diminish that not everything is sunshine and roses when it comes to someone passing. Journaling is the way through because it's really your healing in the end. When that person's gone, they're gone. We might have some kind of a connection with them, but in general, they're gone. We send them up with love and light and healing if that's appropriate. But I do that even to the vicious of killers when I hear they have died. I'm like, they're in someone else's hands now. And maybe their slate will get wiped clean and they will feel and find or get healed the brokenness that led them to the journey that they were on. I mean, if I truly believe in a higher self and that I chose to come down and be this person, that's true of a serial killer. That's true of a murderer, of a rapist. They chose to come down here. There was some experience that they needed to have. And I don't need to know about it. And this isn't really the episode for that, but it is an interesting conversation. And Ben's really good about talking about different people and personality types. And Ben, I'd love to, chat one day about that because, what we're down on this earth to do is one thing. We can talk all day long about, well, why? There isn't always a why. We're not always going to know a why. The why is the rational part. Why is someone I love suffering so much through cancer? They weren't bad people. Well, only bad people get cancer? No. So, and we can talk about, okay, so people have cancer because of all the poisons in the food and in the air and in the water and in the earth. End result, they have the freaking cancer. So, and not all cancer is treatable. It can be treated maybe prophylactically. It could be, I don't think that's the right word. I think I'm using the wrong word. But also, there comes a time where it's palliative care, where we're just giving you some treatment to reduce some of the pain or whatever it is so it doesn't spread everywhere and you can die more peacefully. And then it's witnessing that someone is petrified of death, and they're not ready. And whether you're 30 or 80 or 90, are you ever really ready? Are you ever really ready to die? So let me just check the comments because I think I saw something from Indigo and I want to make sure I address that, guys. So, oh, interesting. Indigo, I am 100% okay with me dying. I cannot, however, acknowledge that anyone I currently care about is also mortal. It fills me with fear and dread. And so I would ask, why does it fill you with fear and dread? Is it that you'll be alone? Is it that you haven't said everything you need to say? I'm asking. It doesn't, you don't even have to answer me. I'm just posing that question. Because that's anticipatory grief, right? You're anticipating losing them and you're anticipating the fear and the dread that's going to come with that. And the reality is, not to be a buzzkill, but we all live and we all die. We all have a time clock. We don't know what it is or when it is. How can you best fill your heart and prepare your heart that and are you living your best life with those people now while they're here? And I would imagine they would pose the same thing to you. Ben says, individual, yeah, I think those kinds hit me worse. A lot of people I knew who are no longer with us were war fighters, military. Yep. And I think I see them as life takers and heartbreakers. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so and Brazy, I have been avoiding the news recently, and I think there's a part of denial for me in the news. There's a lot of grief in the news. The grief, the loss of a community or a world as we know it. It doesn't have to be bad. Part of our awakening as a human society, we have to go through some of this shit. I'm very naive. I did not think it would be this drastic, vile, violent, vicious, dismissing me as a human and as a woman with rights, that someone doesn't value me, that there's a community, a hierarchy that wants to silence me and also identifies me as not being valuable because I didn't procreate. What the F? So I think that tapping out from the news on occasion is not a bad thing. I still need to be aware personally, but because I'm not afraid to write my local politicians and tell them what the F. And if you're not going to do anything, then get out and let somebody else who will. The problem is there isn't anybody. Let's just face it. To go into politics now, you're insane. Let's see. What did I miss? Hold on. This is from Indigo. Columbine is something that stick so keenly in my mind, even though I was so young when it happened. The effect of my life was massive. So, yeah, you might have been young. I was older, and it also impacted me. Every time there's a mass shooting, I become incensed and enraged because we don't acknowledge and treat young people and or their parents when there are signs. And 9 out of 10 times there are signs. Nothing infuriates me more that could have been prevented. So that breaks my heart. Um, let's see. Okay, so you guys are sort of chatting back and forth. Um, oh, interesting. So, yes, some are definitely ready. A life of pain becomes exhausting, especially in long-term care. You heard it often. I'm ready. And so there are some that are ready. They're done. They've done everything they can do. They've done all the treatments. They've experienced the world. There's nothing left. They're done. Do I say something controversial? So I know in the end I get to put my puppies down. Why can't I put down when it's time? And I don't mean just because I don't want to be in the world anymore. It's if I'm really sick, why are we prolonging it when there's no doubt that in 2 months I'm gone anyway? Why can't I go into that good night now? It's an interesting question, not for today's discussion. But I would say that journaling, writing these things down, creating bullet points. One of the things that when I was stuck for a while, before my heart event, when I was in tremendous grief with my mother, I did a whole bullets. Like I was told, just put down some words that you're feeling. After I got through with all the curse words, and I did, it was a conversation with myself. And I was just like sad and hurt and wounded and broken. And all of this stuff just came out of me. There was no holding it in. I'm sorry if you can hear the dogs. They are outside and they're driving me banana cakes right now with the barking. But it was, and then after I did that, I was instructed to then create a grateful bullet list. Long line of the bullet points of how I was feeling, and very little of grateful at that point because it's I couldn't find it. I couldn't reach it. And I am usually an internally optimistic person. And it wasn't there. Um Thanks, Brace. Yeah, it's not easy. You're part of a group called Dying with Dignity. And that's it. How do you help someone die with dignity? And even if you're angry with them and you are part of their life, how do you help them die with dignity? And there are some people in my community, when I walk around in my neighborhood, um, their children are not physically near them. Some don't have children. And that's going to be me. I see myself in them. So when I was talking last week, when we're angry, sometimes it's a reflection of what we're feeling. And it's that loneliness and that fear of being alone. I don't want to be any love or kindness or respect. It's my greatest fear. And I would rather be put down. Don't keep me alive to be mistreated when I can't defend myself. What? Who does that? So while I can in this body, in this time, in this life, and if anybody's going through this now, what do you recommend? How do you say goodbye when it's the long goodbye? How do you get yourself to be present? And it's different. My auntie has two sons. So, and they're all physically in the same location and right near each other. So they get to step up and they get to be there for their parents. And as a niece, I'm going to do my best to get to her, but it's not right around the corner for me. And so I have to figure that out. How do I do that? In the same point, I have somebody else in my life that is going through cancer treatments, again, not right near me. And so how do I get to be that support? And one of the things that I've learned is to just witness it and echo back what they're saying. I can't offer my advice on how they should handle their medical care. I tried that. That's not appropriate. It's not. They're already in the storm of chaos with their treatment. And they have a lot of other voices that are in their ear telling them what to do and not to do. They don't need my voice. That's a hard pill to swallow, people, because I got me a big old voice. Hold on. I need something to drink. No, it's not beer. It's iced tea. It's honey ginseng iced tea. And so, and there's an effort to be kind, right? It's compassionate care. And I think that's one of the things that we all struggle with. And we can also, I'm looking for the right word. Sorry. All of this is interconnected with other kinds of dying. So thank you. It is delicious. We're talking about people that we know and we love or have a complicated relationship with, to say goodbye to them and to help them somehow have some peace in this journey of death, because they're not going to be here tomorrow. And I think a lot of people react and that are going through that specifically, that may hurt our feelings. And we can't take that personally because it's not about us. Easy to say, very difficult to do. So partly what I would say is to be a witness, be a support, echo back their words and say, I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that. That must really be scary. How are you doing? That is a way to relate, but it's not our way, our ability to, or our position, or it's just not our place to tell somebody else any other information. If you don't even get to have that conversation, that's where journaling comes in. Because sometimes you're talking to a brick wall, and it doesn't matter what you say, it's never good enough. No matter what you do, it's never good enough. Write it down. Because when that person is actually dead, you don't want to be so pissed that you're now feeling guilty and hurt and all these other feelings, and you beat yourself up and make yourself feel like a bad person. You're not a bad person. We're entitled to not always feel love, but we know that it's important for that other person. Sometimes we step up and sometimes we don't. And if we can't, which is okay, write it down. You can set it on fire after you write it, by the way. It's the act of releasing that information, those feelings, that experience, get it out. Is this tapping into anything that's making sense? The chat's sort of gone quiet. So, yes, Brazy, your motto is no regrets. If they're still with you, talk to them now if you can. Again, I want to honor and respect people who can't make that conversation. I've witnessed that in other people. They just can't talk to that person. There's no pleasing that person. That person's only going to make them more insane. and make them feel worse about themselves. So you have to take care of you. And that's why I talk about journaling. That's why I say put it down on paper. Because, not everybody, had the happy days life with, fabulous parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins or, whatever. Not everybody had a good family or friends. I have some complicated relationships. More often than not, I'm like a country song. You call me, I'm coming. But over time, will I really? Because maybe you weren't there for me. Is that petty or is that self-protecting? I don't know. Write it down. That's my answer. And then you can set it on fire. Like we have this eclipse coming. We have a full moon coming. I usually set an intention for myself. I use the full moon as an excuse. And the eclipse I kind of see as a wash, right? It's coming and it's going. So I really want to make it tonight. And I'm hoping it's not going to be cloudy. Right now the sun's out and it's pretty outside. It's still chilly, but it's pretty. Really want to be able to set my intention so that way I feel lighter, less wounded, because I'm a wounded daughter. I'm a wounded niece. I'm a wounded person. I'm a wounded friend. How do I let some of that go and not eat at me and make me bitter? Because I don't want to be that way. So anyway, I lost my thought. And I hope you found this helpful. Part of what I'm hoping to do is generate conversation. And what you guys did in the chat was perfect because it's relatable. And we all have feelings one way or another in this conversation. So go forth. If you can see the full moon tonight and the eclipse, enjoy it. If it's not your cup of tea, have something great to drink tonight. And I just want to thank you for being here. I'm at 114 or 115 subscribers. So that's all because of you guys and talking me up on other channels. I really appreciate that. And I send you away with blessings of love, light, healing, compassion, joy, sprinkled with a little bit of laughter and giggles. And until next time, I send you off into the sun.
Ooh, it's okay to let go. You're not alone. Stand your ground. Take it slow. The way you've been shown. Trust yourself, you to get through. Now you're on the other side, living life again. It was a wild ride out of the rain into the sun. Look, you've won.